Hey y'all! So finally, the WOW Trios tournament is set, and we finally have the end of a long running feud in the women's tag team division. This is Steph and Kat Talk WOW.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs, and the room is stutters. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late, cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on.
Hey y'all, welcome to a new episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. I am, of course, your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, color commentator featured on the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, Black Girl Magic 2022, and Spartan Wrestling, and anywhere else you might want to book me, and contributing writer for Daily DDT. And I'm so happy to be before you guys on this Thursday night to talk about WoW superheroes. But of course, I am not alone. I am with my mighty tag team partner, the creator of In Cat We Trust, a super mom, an amazing author and writer for Daily DDT and other platforms herself, and creator of the Women of Color in Wrestling panel. She is Katrina Blake. How are you, Kat?
I am not too bad, not too bad. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some WoW.
Absolutely. So, of course, we did have to reschedule, but I'm so happy for those who are with us tonight watching on any and all platforms that we have. Of course, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and anywhere else, also on Twitch. Thank you guys so much for watching live. And of course, we have Eric Isaac in the comments, in the chat, always posted up before we even start. Thank you so much saying, hey, Queens, hashtag wow rocks. And it is so amazing because this is actually the first this possibly I think this is probably the first episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wild that is in Women's History Month. So it is absolutely amazing, of course, to celebrate women during this month, in particular. And then having to go from Black History Month all the way to Women's History Month is just an amazing back-to-back scenario where you get to celebrate a part of your identity, and then you also get to celebrate another part of your identity as well during this month. So happy Women's History Month to everyone. And of course, we are loving being able to talk about this all women's wrestling promotion on this television show. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this episode before we get into the nitty gritty?
Definitely a solid episode, a lot of action, a lot of things happening storyline wise, but also just again, I like that WoW usually does a really good job of making sure we kind of see different people pop up every week, even if some we might see multiple times, but like kind of just making sure we get to see a good chunk of the roster every week. And that's always to me such a good thing when you think of like wrestling shows. Sometimes when you're like, oh, this person's been gone for like a bit, where are they? And usually WoW is on it with making sure we kind of see all the ladies at least recently enough if they're not like injured or something like that. So definitely a solid episode.
Absolutely. And I will, of course, say if you are watching on any one of our platforms and you watched this past weekend's episode of WoW, let us know in the comments. Your comments will definitely show up on the episode. We love interacting with our listeners and watchers. So please, chime in the comments if you hear something that resonates with you or just want to talk about how much you love the episode or just the show in particular. Like I said, we love interacting with everyone. And I do share the sentiment that this episode was very action packed. because of course in this second season WoW has leaned more into storylines along with the in-ring action, but in this episode it was more action based with a little bit of storyline, of course, with a giant story that's been sort of taken up the tag team division over the past couple of months, and we will definitely get to that. So the first match, of course, on this episode called the All American Girls, which aired on March the 2nd through the 3rd, was the semifinal match of the WOW Trios tournament between the Brat Pack and the new Team Spirit. And of course, this was a rematch from their last tournament match that wound up not continuing due to the injury of Ariel Sky in the ring. And of course, Coach Campanelli decided to take her place and go on to compete in the tournament. And Ariel Sky was actually on commentary for this match, weighing in on her injury and how she, and basically embodying the spirit of Team Spirit, no pun intended, while not being in action. And though she was in low spirits for not being in ring with the girls, she was still, rooting them on from the outside. And this match was really, really good. We saw a lot of the toughness that we've come to know from the Brat Pack with BK Rhythm and Gigi Gianni and Lil J Boogie, the newcomer. But Team Spirit definitely did bring that action. Now, of course, this episode would be nothing without BK's bars. And BK, of course, came in with her raps, dissing Team Spirit, saying, "Hey, everybody pipe down. We got something to say." So the last match ended in a no contest. For the rematch, coach, you look a bit stressed. See, the Brat Pack is here and we're coming for the trophy. So say less, we the best. And I was just like, okay, so I see you tapping in with a little bit of DJ Khaled in there, who is just, a pillar of hip hop at this point. It was just really cute how she said all that. But I know, of course, Katrina is going to have some stuff to say about her bars a little bit later. But getting into the in ring action, it was really good. Sasha Sparks, of course, started the match against BK, and we saw a lot of her offense in terms of submission maneuvers and lots of, flipping that she was doing throughout the match, as well as, taking down BK, and then BK tagged in Gigi, and Sasha tagged in Pep. And that's where the match started to take a little bit of a wrinkle, a different type of wrinkle, because Gigi was being really tough on Pep Riley to the point to where there was isolation involved. Of course, she was hitting her with her double knees and all of that. Like, it was really tough for Pep Riley in the beginning, but then once she was able to finally tag in Coach Campanelli, she came in really hot and she wound up getting the victory for Team Spirit with her ability and with her finishing move called the buzzer beater. So now Team Spirit goes on to the finals, and they will be facing off against Genesis, Exodus, and Ice Cold in Team Exile for the finals for that WoW Trios tournament. But this match was really good. And Little J Boogie here again, even though she's the odd person out in terms of her personality in the Brat Pack, she was still offering great action here and there, and she was still impressive. But Team Spirit wound up getting the win. So, Katrina, how do you feel about Team Spirit powering through and getting the win after everything that transpired with Ariel Sky? And do you think that their chances of winning the trios tournament is relatively high now?
Um, I'm good with the win. It's unfortunate for Ariel, who, kind of came in, ready to do what she could do, and it didn't really work out that way. And it's always unfortunate when anybody has an injury. But with that being said, I do think that this is good for the new Team Spirit. I think this is, hopefully, and I say this because, there are two members, new members, and Ariel was kind of the new member, and then you kind of added one, and maybe like a week or two later you add somebody else. And so while it worked out in this regard, I have said previously, just the test is always how well you could communicate with your team in a situation like this. And so there's always that risk, or rather chance, that if you're in a team match now with a team who may be more better suited in regards to length of time or how they communicate, or they're more used to somebody else's moves in their team, this may be not necessarily a great thing if they're going against a team who might be better in sync. And so, would it be cool if they, win it? Of course, especially just when you think of all the, shenanigans previously, like last season with the tag titles and Team Spirit when it was Randy and Coach, going against Miami Sweet Heat. It was a lot of shenanigans on with them as well. And so to kind of go from that, I was like, okay, maybe we get some new titles in the trios, but then you have one member gone, and then you get Ariel who kind of stepped in, but then she got hurt. Now you have two new members, and while I know Coach has this view set of I'm usually right, and just follow my lead. That's good to an extent if it gets you where you need to go. But if it doesn't, are you then willing to take the same level of accountability if it doesn't work the way you think it's going to work? Because it's very possible, again, because this is a newer team, being that it's the new Team Spirit. This is a little bit of a newer team, even with the same name. It's a bit newer with regard to maybe some of the other teams that's in the tournament. But I do think it's a good win. Uh, I do think that Coach, I guess, made sure to get the victory. But again, this is it is for a tournament. Things can go real left or go completely different, and we may hope or want in these type of situations. But it was a good match.
You're right. Things can go a little bit differently than what we're expecting. And Team Spirit has, it's so funny that you charted back their journey when it comes to Team Spirit, when you think about all the bodies that we've seen and all the women that we've seen, change and interchange in terms of Team Spirit. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because even though, Randy Rara was there and then Ariel Sky was there and then Randy, is no longer there and now we have Pep Riley, there is still the sense that they are still united and still have a common goal, even though there was that one point where they brought in Sasha and she was not and coach was not that excited about it. But it seems as if, they seem to be on one accord, unless of course they've just decided to put their dissension to the side and then coach is just gonna be, okay, let's just win this tournament, and then after the tournament is over, she's not going to want anything to do with Sasha Sparks. Like, it's just interesting how that might play out. But I do find that I am glad that they did move forward and win this match, and I do feel like it was the right choice, even though the Brat Pack has been cool and they have been dominant throughout the tournament. I do find that Team Spirit was definitely the right choice in terms of moving forward in the tournament. Now, how they will fare against Exile, who has had their issues in the past, is going to be very interesting to see as well. But I feel like it's going to be a really good finals match. They didn't say if it was going to be happening this weekend, but I believe it's probably safe to assume maybe it is. But either way, I'm excited to see how this trio tournament ends with Exile versus Team Spirit. I'm really crunk about it. It's going to be cool. So yeah, the finals are coming up, and we've got lots of good stuff to look forward to this weekend. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Moving forward in the show, we had Team Grits and Glam, Jessie Jones and Amber O'Neal come out dressed in sort of like a redneck version of the All American Girls outfits. And they were making fun of them and coming out to their music and insulting them on the microphone. And it was just really bad. And they said, hey, guess who we're dressed as? Here's a hint. It's women who just can't win a match against us to save their life, and they're just losers and all of the above, and just, running them down in so many different ways. But Santana Garrett came out there and basically said, hey, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So while y'all thinking y'all dissing us, you're actually paying us a compliment. But of course, they were just like, oh, are you going to come in here and fight us, on your own? But then she said, no, we're going to fight you. And then out comes Americana, who's sort of feigning her injury, like she still has her arm in a sling. But then once she takes off her jacket, she reveals that her arm is feeling better and that she has been cleared to compete. And both of those women run into the ring, but Jessie and Amber run out. So, of course, in the main event, they will be facing off against each other for the final time because they've been fighting back and forth for the past couple of months. And so that's what's going to happen in the main event. So, moving forward into match number two. We get Goldie Collins versus the Violence is for Everyone leader, Holidead. And of course, I was wondering how this was going to go because Holidead is just here to just wreck shop and destroy everyone, right? And then you have Goldie Collins, who is still a relatively new WoW girl, trying to take her place, right? So Eric Isaac in the comments saying Americano pulled a Hangman Page on them. That's a really good observation there. But yeah, Holiday and Goldie Collins was out here, and they actually had a really good match because, like I was saying, Goldie Collins is still a new WoW girl, and she's still trying to find, her groove and her fitting here as a new girl. And she really did have a little bit of a good offense when it came to Holiday. She came in with a strategy. In her mind, she was trying to take Holiday down piece by piece, which was basically just kicking her in her legs and attacking her back and everything, which would stop Holiday from, pulling off her feats of strength inside the ring. But Holiday, of course, was just not here to play any games. She was clobbering her with forearms and hard hits and everything. But Goldie really did, pull off a number of impressive moves, just like in this picture when she had a baseball sliding clothesline. And it was just a really great match all around between both women. And even Goldie impressed here with a snap suplex that she hit onto Holiday. I didn't know Goldie was even that powerful, but the fact that she did that to someone the size of Holiday was just really impressive. But in the end, Holiday wound up winning by hitting her Darkness Falls finisher, which I do recommend you see if you haven't seen it already because it is a very devastating finisher. Like watching it on television, it's just like, yo, that's really legit. So she ended the match with that, and Holiday wound up winning in the first match that we've seen her, in a while. But Goldie definitely deserves a lot of credit for giving her, a really good fight. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the performance of Goldie Collins going up against a veteran like Holiday?
I was pretty impressed, honestly. I do have my slight issues with Goldie just because, she kind of came in here a little bit cocky, a little bit arrogant when she didn't even do anything yet. And so, to come in like that, and even in some matches where she was slightly disrespectful. I'm thinking of when she had coaches, braids like, dog ears, like, or like a leash or something. And it was kind of like, that's not really nice, Goldie. And so for her to come in with somebody who's a little bit different than the opponent she have already faced in the Holiday, who is a lot more maybe aggressive, if I want to say, as far as her in ring style, and kind of really put it out, put forth her best. I was highly, highly impressed with that. I was like, okay, I can give credit when credit is due. I can do that. And she definitely surprised me in a good way. I enjoyed the match between them, but I was okay with Holiday winning. I just felt like even with Goldie doing what she did, Holiday is a vet for a reason. Holiday, you know, she wrestles the way she wrestles for a reason. It usually works for her. And so in this regard, it was just like Holiday was the better one in this match, but I definitely think Goody should, well, I'm sure she is, but like pat herself on the back for, I was like highly impressed. I was like, okay, like, all right, you're not sitting here just yapping every week and not really doing much. She actually did, put her best effort in that, and that's a good thing. And so, I wouldn't even mind them running it back if Goldie can kind of keep the level she gave to Holiday. I would probably be a lot more in tune. But all right, I can give you more of a pass when sometimes she says certain things, and I'm like, girl, I could probably be more willing to be more lenient on passes if she actually kind of gave this level of every time I saw her in the ring. And this is not to discredit what she did previously. It's more so just me like saying, no, you really brought it. And I guess the smart thing to do when you're going against somebody like Holiday.
Yeah, she really did bring it. And yes, she does have a little bit of an arrogant streak, I will say that, because she always calls herself the best in show, right? And that's something that she brings to a lot of those dog competitions with her puppy Alexander and stuff like that. But when it comes to in the ring, you do have to show and prove what your abilities are. You know, you can't just say, oh, well, I'm the best in show or the best in WoW and then not prove it. So Goldie, you know, has been proving it, and she definitely proved it here in this match against Holidead. Like, she did an amazing job. But the thing is, when it comes to Holiday, she has a point to prove, and she just wants to enact violence upon everyone, which a lot of people could, you know, peg as crazy or unhinged. But at the same time, she is, you know, proving a point that she can destroy half the women in the locker room, and that's something that she did do, you know, throughout this match. And I appreciated that. I really, you know, liked that action from Holiday, and she is somebody who I wish we saw a little bit more on the show more consistently. But of course, you know, the times that we do see her, though, it is a treat. So Holiday did an amazing job here, and I am glad that she got the win. She deserved it. And Goldie is definitely still someone to watch as someone who is getting started in their wrestling career as a whole, and also in their career on WoW. So this was a really good watch, and it was really good. And I'm glad Holiday wound up getting the win. So moving forward with the rest of the episode, match number 3 took place, and this was, of course, Exile's Ice Cold going up against Kandi Krush, or better known as Crush at this point, because she has a change in attitude. She's sort of, you know, turning a new leaf ever since her and Princess Aussie have, you know, fell out and she lost her undefeated streak. So now Crush is now going on this new journey where she's preparing to you know, show more of her aggression towards the WoW roster. And as great and as athletic this match was, you know, Crush was just ready to just pop off and really show and prove why she should be the dominant girl in WoW. So Ice Cold is someone that we should definitely keep our eyes on in terms of singles competition. Because, of course, since the show started, you know, it seems like she had a little bit more of an identity crisis. But now it seems like she's found her footing in Exile, and they have really been sharpening her skills, and she's been sharpening her skills because the amount of flips and the amount of offense that she had against Crush was amazing. Like, there was one point where I believe Crush tried to go for a drop toe hold, and she wound up jumping in the air or flipping out of it and just dodging it completely. And I was like, okay, ma'am. And here in this picture, you see Ice Cold trying to lock in a Boston Crab. This was amazing here as well. And she was just really impressive throughout. Like, I was really here for seeing more of Ice Cold having breakout moments like this. But then you have Crush, you know, being more aggressive as well with her hard hits and also, you know, her hip tosses and things like that. Like, she was just being more aggressive. And she wound up getting the win with her lights out suplex. But this match was very athletically impressive on both ends, and Crush definitely had a point to prove where she actually blocked a move that Ice Cold was trying to execute from the top rope. Like, strategy wise, Crush had it going on here and she wound up getting the win. And who's to say maybe she has in her mind that she's going to stay undefeated after this match, or maybe she's going to come after the WoW World title again. But either way, Crush has got a new attitude and she is ready to just run through everyone the same way that she did once the second season got started. So, Katrina, how did you feel about Crush's performance here?
Oh, I think both of them did well, honestly. I just to your point of Ice Cold, definitely, you know, when we first saw her and then when she kind of was bouncing around in groups, you know, we were kind of wondering what was happening, where it was going, where was her footing. And I do think that even though there was a bit of a couple of snafus in the beginning when she joined Exile, I think she finally fits in. I don't know if it's because, again, you know, it was a couple of member changes or, you know, even leadership changes to an extent. I don't know if that's the reason, but in her regard, it has most certainly helped. I feel like the last times we have seen her in the ring so far, she's really, really been on one, like on it. And, you know, to be fair, you know, Crush was on a good path, a good tier when she first started the season as well. And so, you know, I don't know if there's some people who I did say I do think need to put a little bit more aggression behind their moves. I don't know if is somebody I would have necessarily said that about, just because I felt like she was doing quite well um previously, before the loss. And this is again, and this is in no disrespect, just like I am a little like, is it necessary so soon to go more tough because you lost a match or two when you was actually, again, outside of Adriana Gambino, basically undefeated. And so you're like basically undefeated. The one match or two deterred you that much that you're like, I gotta really do a whole 180 personality wise. And I'm like, I don't know how I necessarily feel about that in that regard, because is it necessary? I feel like you have enough of the skill, and we have been seeing that in particular in season two, that you do have the skill to show the women in WoW what you can do. And so I do think both women brought it, and obviously I'm sure Crush is probably taking the win as well. Clearly the attitude change helped, but I would also argue respectfully that did you really need to, because you've definitely had a good win record this season. And so it's kind of like, I don't know necessarily how I'm really feeling yet about, I guess, the change, or necessarily some of what I kind of deem a bit rude to say to a friend. But, that's just, I feel like I save my rude behavior. If I have to be rude, it'll be use people I don't call a friend. I would probably be a little bit nicer about how I say certain things. But with that being said, I do think that this was a really, really good match. And again, just kudos to Ice Cold, because I do think she finally got it. Like, not in wrestling, just like she just got her footing of where she fits, because we were not sure for a bit where Girly was. Like, we wasn't know what's happening. We don't know why she was flipping flopping everywhere in regards to teams, and it finally feels like she's accepted enough that she's, even if with the loss, she's still doing well, and that's, I think, a good thing. And I'm even interested to see how that continued for her in the group, but also with her solo matches, because we've definitely seen a very different Ice Cold previously with some matches we were like, well, oh, okay, like just end it like that, or we were just like surprised as far as the outcome. And so kudos to Crush winning this, but also I am definitely looking forward to see how Ice Cold grows a little bit more, as so that now that she feel like she kind of figured out where her place was in WoW.
Absolutely. Because, it's so funny. We were just talking about the trios tournament and Ice Cold being in exile. I wonder, with all the trouble that Exile had been having, with Genesis not knowing if she wanted to, lock in for herself or for the team, like, would they see Ice Cold having a solo match against Crush as um, a hindrance to them, especially since she lost? Like, I do wonder how they would feel about that. But also at the same time, I wonder if they would rally around her and actually support her, as aside from feeling a way about it. But then at the same time, when you think about Crush and her motivation, I ultimately feel like her motivation is just anger. Like, she is just angry that she's lost something. And I know, from experience, that when you lose something, or when something is taken from you in a very, haphazard way, or in a way that you felt like you couldn't help or something like that, like, you are upset and you want to take it out on the entire world, and you want to work harder to prove a point, and you just want to be like, no, like, this is mine and no one's going to take this from me. And maybe she feels that because she was so nice about it, in the beginning, that maybe that didn't get her to where she wanted to go. So she is in her villain era. And something that was interesting is that on social media, when I did post about Crush's new attitude, she reposted it and said on Instagram that she has a reason for why she's doing what she's doing, and that she will explain it later. So I do trust that later on down the line we will understand, why she's acting the way that she's acting. But I do feel that it is mostly out of, motivation fueled by anger from the way that she's lost everything. She lost her first WoW World Championship, by haphazard cheating from the Fab Four. She's lost her friend because she felt like her friend didn't have time for her when she was the champion. So, and then she lost her undefeated streak. So maybe she's just really tired of losing, and she feels that being more aggressive is the way to really get her point across. And sometimes you have to do that to let people know, like, you're not just going to run all over me. But at the same time, that anger can also blind you from what's really important and stop you from thinking clearly as well. So we'll just have to see how it goes. But this match was really good, and I am intrigued to see where both women go from here. Because especially with Ice Cold being in the trios tournament, and with Crush, just figuring out what's best for her at this point. So yeah, that was really good. So after this match, we actually got a promo from the former WoW World Champion, The Beast, who we were so lucky and fortunate to interview for Black History Month. So if you haven't checked that interview out already, please do so on both of our channels, because it was such a great interview and we were so honored to have her on. She cut a promo talking about, the difficulties that she has faced from having her injury and then being re-injured and having to give up the Wild World title, and all the women that she has had to go through and all the difficulties that she's had to go through in order to get back the title that she never lost. She talked about her doctor's visits and being cleared to come back into the ring, and she just talked about all of her motivations. And she pointedly spoke to Abilene Maverick and told her, like, look, I'm coming for you because you have exactly what I want, and that's the Wild World title. And she told us in our interview that she felt that Abilene Maverick was a paper champion, and that the Beast was, and that she was going to come for her. So this was her reiterating her intentions here, and I really appreciated seeing that and hearing that from her. And I just can't get enough of her aura. Every time she makes an entrance, you just can't help but just look and just stop and stare, because she's not only a beautiful woman, but she is just so strong and just so dominant. And I just love just what she brings. Like, she just has the it factor there. And I want more than anything for her to get the Wild World title back because of the way that she lost it, even though she didn't technically lose it. So hearing this from her was really good. And this was, of course, followed up with the announcement that this weekend we will be seeing the Beast and Abilene Maverick have a rematch for the WoW World Championship, because Abilene signed an open contract with David McLean. So this weekend we will be seeing that championship match take place. So, Katrina, how did you feel about what the Beast had to say and this championship match that we are set to see this weekend?
I was with it because you know how I feel about the current champ. I definitely don't like that she's champion. I don't like how she won it. I don't like how it seems like she keeps getting these matches and winning. And again, in regards to the Beast, she never lost it. Never lost it. And I feel like, unfortunately, because of her being out, is a lot of stuff that happened between the time she left and the time she came back with the champions, the amount of champions. So in her regard, I definitely understand feeling frustrated. I understand definitely calling her paper champ because I'm right there with her. Um, she ain't wrong um, of how she feels about this because I most certainly felt a way about it. I've been feeling a way about it. And so I was happy with everything she was saying, and I'm actually looking forward to this match because I am hoping that it ends with me going, yes, the championship is where it was supposed to be in the first place. It's not like she lost it fair and square. She got hurt, and that's a very different way to end the championship. I feel it's like it's not the same thing as you lost it or you was cheated out of it. It was like you were hurt, and while there was definitely some shenanigans, involved as far as why she was out for so long, it's still like it's a very different way to end it than losing a belt in a match. And so I'm hoping that there's no shenanigans, there's no cheating, there's no random roll ups because I'm really not a fan of roll ups. But just hopefully it is a match that the Beast can handle her business and become champion again. So I am looking forward to it.
Katrina, you're not a fan of roll ups, really?
No, I really do not like a roll up. Like I can get certain times I can allow it if it's like a situation where it's like a person, and I'll say mostly faces, I'm okay with doing it, is if it's like this person's a bigger person and this is the only way they can get a pin to kind of get off maybe easily, I'm okay with that. But when a heel does it, or it's like a roll up, but they're like holding, I'm actually really don't like roll ups in general. And so it's very rare. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can accept it. It's very, very, very rare. So I'm not a fan of it. So hopefully it's none of that. I actually don't like when those people do. I'm like, oh, had me roll up, like drives me up the wall. Drives me up the wall. I'm like, why? Like, did you need to do a roll up in this situation? Probably not. Like, and that bothers me. But just preference, just a preference.
That's funny. So I guess my other question is, do you like fruit roll-ups?
Yes, I'm okay with a fruit roll up. I don't eat a lot of candy, but if I have to eat a fruit roll up, it's pretty. If it's a good flavor, let's clarify that. If it's like one of the ones with good, like whatever the flavors are, because we know it's kind of artificial flavored, but like whatever the flavors are, they're good. I would definitely eat one of those, and I'll even give a squish roll. That's rolled up cake. I'll give that. So those fine. It's just rolling up in rings is where I like. Guys, gotta draw the line there. That's all.
Absolutely, I get it because I actually like fruit roll-ups myself. I don't eat candy a lot either, but when I do, like if I have a chance to eat a roll-up, I'll be really happy about it. It's just the packaging that kind of gets on my nerves, but otherwise it's really worth it. So I just had to ask that. And I like strawberry cream rolls too, those little Debbie cakes. Like those are really good. Those are Oh my God, those are like drugs. But before we get off into more treats and everything, I am really excited to see how this championship match is gonna go because Abilene, she actually can go in the ring. And we saw that with her last match, right, against Princess Aussie. And she really did an amazing job there, even though she wound up taking like an easy way out by grabbing Princess Aussie's tights. And I'm wondering, like, even though the first time she fought the beast, she found a shortcut. Like, what other way can you find a shortcut with somebody like the beast who was gunning so hard for the title that she never lost? And also, furthermore, someone who might be studying strategy on how not to get messed up by those tricks again. Like, I really feel that Abilene really is going into the ring with a different beast this time. And I feel like she might get the win here because I just can't imagine Abilene just coasting by with that title any longer. I just can't imagine it. Like, we barely see her, which was one of my biggest complaints for Penelope Pink, but now it's shifted over to Abilene now. It's like we barely see her. She's not challenging anybody outright, saying, "Oh, come fight me." And it's just a little bit annoying. So I'm gonna need for Miss Ma'am to pop up and actually do something here. So hopefully this might mean that she might not have the title for long, but you just never know with her. But either way, I'm excited about this weekend. And then also this weekend we have another championship match between Miami Sweet Heat and the Mother Truckers for the WOW Tag Team Championship. And I'm really excited about that one as well. So this weekend we've got a lot of exciting stuff going on. So before we get to the main event, they did recap the entire saga of Jesse Jones and Americana and Levi, of course, bonding with each other and how Jesse Jones and Americana split up with their difference of winning styles and how Amber O'Neal came back and basically fed Jesse Jones into stabbing Americana in the back and leading to the feud that they've had back and forth with each other. And I'm really glad that they went back and told the story again to sort of reiterate the stakes of this feud and why they hate each other so much and why they've been beating on each other so bad. Um, Back and forth and everything, and just why everything has just been so heated. Okay, so moving into the main event match, we finally get Grits and Glam, Jesse Jones and Amber O'Neal versus Santana Garrett and Americana, the All American Girls 2.0, and Levi was in the audience. And the one thing that I have been asking for weeks on end, as these four women have fought each other in singles matches and in tag team matches, was that Santana and Americana would meet Jesse and Amber with the same energy that they've been meeting them with. And they did that this time. And I was so happy. I was so happy because Santana and Americana just came in and they were ready to fight, but they got to brawling in the ring and outside of the ring. They were fighting them and spearing them into the barricades. And I was just like, yes, get aggressive with them the way they've been getting aggressive with y'all. Like, I'm tired of y'all, doing it the nice way. Like, get buck with them. And that's exactly what they did. And of course, they did have their tough situations in ring because you have Jesse Jones choking out Americana here and isolating her and then tagging in Amber O'Neal every chance she got, and they kept taking advantage of that while Santana was trying to, here again, run in, but the referee kept stopping her, and I'm just like, how many times are y'all gonna do this and then realize that this isn't gonna work? But I feel like I keep complaining about that. But either way, this was amazing because as Americana had to fight her way through Amber O'Neal and Jesse Jones, she finally got ahead of it and then tagged in Santana. And Santana just came in ready with all guns blazing, fighting Jesse and Amber O'Neal over and over again. It was to the point to where Jesse and Amber were almost afraid of Americana and Santana. And I was just so glad. And finally, the match ended with Santana and Americana hitting a double flip. Hold on, I did write down the name of it. Wait, I'm going to say it right. Okay, they hit a double supernatural moonsault in order to win the match, and I was just so happy that these women were on one accord. In this match and met them with the exact same energy. And even Americana saw how Jesse Jones was getting ready to attack her outside the apron and gave her a jawbreaker. And I was like, yes, meet them with the same energy. I was just so happy with the way this match turned out. They wound up winning, and then Levi was celebrating with them in the ring, and it was just a sweet moment. And I was finally glad that they got the upper hand over Grits and Glam. And that was how the episode ended. It was very triumphant and really cool in that aspect. And it was just a hard hitting affair. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match and watching the All American Girls 2.0 finally get their upper hand on Grits and Glam?
About time, like, sure, I definitely had some of my issues with Americana just because of certain principles of certain things. I get wanting to do things the right way. I'm, you know, non-wrestler me would do things the right way. I would definitely admit if I was a wrestler and somebody was doing shenanigans, I don't know if I would always be turning the other cheek. I don't think I would personally. But as a person who doesn't wrestle, I understand wanting to do the right thing, wanting to be a good person. But in that regard, I just felt like there were times when, to an extent, I can understand Jesse's annoyance with Americana, even where it didn't seem like Americana was even being as hopeful as a team, as a tag partner as she can be. But I also felt just from the beginning, while the friendship was a very weird one, in regards to how it started, and I did, again, as a parent, I get wanting to be with your kid and want your kid there and all that stuff, and that's fine. But also, you got to have a job done, and when you want a job done, you can't necessarily have your kid there. And so there are things I definitely understood on Jesse's side. With that being said, I do think Jesse's response to it was a bit much. I think she handled that completely the wrong way. And so about time Americana was like, all right, let's not. Because I was like, girl, like, even though I said your kid shouldn't have been there, you're not talking about my personally, as I said, I will burn the world down for my kids. And so, like, not gonna be talking about my kid crazy. We just like regular about it. Like, excuse me, I don't even know if we would have made it to the ring. To be fair, like, that's a bit of a red button for me. And again, while I understand that having a kid at work, I do also like you're not talking crazy about mine. And so, about time, I was like, girl, cause come on, like, y'all can't be letting them act like this, and y'all just being all nice and no. So I was, and while to be fair, Santana was not necessary. She really wasn't. I felt like Americana just had to get to that place where she was like, all right, hand take gloves off. And I'm glad she did. It wound up working out for them. And I thought it was a really nice touch that even though Jesse and Amber tried their darndest to, I want to say frazzle them, they were still able to kind of get through that and still win it, but also get to have Levi, who is kind of semi started with in the first place, uh, kind of get to be there for that victory and celebrate with them. I thought that was a nice little touch. That is a moment that you could be in the ring for, not just during match times, during a match. After, everything is fine and safe by all means, but and so I thought that was a nice touch after everything was said and done. And so I guess we will see now what happens with these ladies, because if this is the end of this feud, where do you go now from this? Jessie used a lot of her moving forward and used a lot of blaming that on Americana. And so where do you go now that this is supposed to be done? What can you blame now if it doesn't work the way you want it to work? You know, that was the reason she said that she was on this new thing was she felt Americana was preventing her from getting to where she wanted to get. So now that that is all squared away and it doesn't work out, who do you blame next? Do you turn on Amber, who's supposed to be her friend as well? And so we shall see. But I thought it was a good main event. Definitely thought it was solid. I'm glad Americana and Santana got the win.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Because watching them fight and get beat up by Grits and Glam was getting really exhausting at a certain point. So the idea that they were finally able to stand up to them and fight them the way that they've been fighting them and attacking them just was just really refreshing for me, because there is only so much that being the better person will get you. And I think that was a big lesson in this, is the fact that even though Americana's way wasn't Jesse's way, sometimes you do have to adapt in order, to let people know that you are not to be messed with. And yeah, you can do stuff the right way, but there is only so far in this really dark world where there's only so far that doing the right thing can get you. Of course, it's always important to do the right thing in the right moments. But sometimes you do have to play a little bit dirty in order and get your hands dirty in order to get where you want to go. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Not a whole lot, but just a little, just a tad. And I'm really glad that that the All American girls were finally able to get the upper hand on them. So I feel that at this point, the All American girls should challenge whoever wins the tag team title match this coming weekend, because that's a pretty strong victory in terms of beating Grits and Glam. So I feel like they should challenge them. But I feel that Jessie and Amber might want to get their revenge if that happens, because Jessie has been talking a lot on Twitter about wanting to challenge for the tag titles again. So who knows how that might, cook up or manifest itself. But either way, it was a very triumphant ending to WoW, and I enjoyed it very much. And that brings us to the end of our episode. Of course, thank you guys so much for watching us live everywhere, and of course, liking and subscribing and sharing the clips as you see them. I want to thank WoW Superheroes for also sharing the clips as well. Like, I see those retweets and reposts, and I want to thank the superheroes for doing that as well. We appreciate your love and support as we've grown with our own show. And it's just been really great. So please, if you want to support the show itself, you can watch every episode on both of our YouTube channels, on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast YouTube and the In Cat We Trust YouTube. There is a playlist called Steph and Cat Talk Wow, where you can watch all of the episodes and our interviews that we have with the Tonga twins, with Jesse Jones, and Foxy Fierce, Keita Rush, and the Bees for Black History Month. And if you stay on the lookout, we will have more content coming forward for Women's History Month too. So be on the lookout for that. So we're really blessed, and it's a good time. So Katrina, thank you so much for joining me, per usual, and just tell everybody where you can find and where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
I can be found on most social media and Cat We Trust, Threads, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, E3. Just check out my YouTube channel with my own separate interviews, but also obviously episodes of Steph and Cat Talk WoW, interviews from the wonderful, awesome ladies of WoW, and all my other random content, because my YouTube channel is kind of all over the place. Random stuff, random things I like. If you are in the Jersey area this weekend, I will be working backstage correspondence at Titan Championship Wrestling. I'm working with Samira, so that should be super awesome. Again, second time working with her, so it's cool. I'm happy about that. And just if you're in the tri-state area, catch me in shows and hopefully WrestleMania weekend, fingers crossed. And if that happens, then I will see you in Philly. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But just keep a lookout on my social media and my YouTube.
Absolutely. Check out her content, because she is a great content creator slash writer slash correspondent commentary girl. She's out here doing the work, and she is fantastic. So please check her out. I wish I was closer to her in the tri-state area, but just know I'm closer in spirit. New York and Alabama is just so far. I wish it was closer. But it's okay. We persevere. You guys can find and follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and X/Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. Follow the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. You can check out the newest episode of the Wrestling Realms Championship Culture, and their series for Ladies Night got started for Women's History Month, and they had me on to talk about championship titles for the women, including my Hardy Wrestling Podcast title, which I love. And it was so great to be on there with Haz the Third and Brandon the Belt Guy. Check out that episode if you have a chance. And also tomorrow I will be hosting a women's rivalry episode with Janelle from the HR from Jobber Tears as we talk about women's rivalries from the Attitude Era into the Ruthless Aggression Era. I'm really excited to be starting that series. For Women's History Month. It's really cool. And also just continue to show love for my posts for Women's History Month as well. And just love on each other because it's some crazy haters in this world. But just know that as long as people love you in your community, that you are always valued and appreciated. And of course, this is a show that rides and stands Bianca Belair, the EST of WWE, always in all things, now, forever, together. It's the EST, always. So this has been Steph and Cat Talk Wow, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. And until next time, bye y'all.